Let's read this first story. Some of you might be familiar with it because, it's going insanely viral. I tweeted about this. It's from just the other day. This story here is from the other day where they actually came out. The Cuban immigrants came out and rallied against Black Lives Matter, who are threatening them. But the tweet I put up has like 20,000 retweets. So this is huge. So the initial story was that a group of Black Lives Matter activists.
There you go.
Are going around downtown Louisville accusing these people of being gentrifiers. And because of that, they have to pay hard cash. A bunch of businesses agreed to put up this contract in their windows. Dear Nulu business, no, not this one specifically. There's like this, it might be this one, but there's other ones, a list of demands specifically. They want them to admit that their gentrification is an oppressive system targeting black folks for 400 years. Now, it's very creepy. A bunch of these businesses just said yes, but one business said no. We are not an enemy of the black community. Cubans rally to support Nulu businesses. Take a look at this photo. All right, maybe the photos aren't. There we go. It says, we left Cuba because of socialism. Be careful what you wish for. Some of the demands requested by Black Lives Matter protesters included that Nulu businesses adequately represent Louisville's black population by having a minimum of 23% black staff. Now, there's more to that. They don't write it out, but no, they want front facing. They said specifically that if someone walks in, they want front facing staff. So you'll see who's working there. They said they want a purchasing minimum of 23% inventory from black retailers or donating 1.5% of net sales to a local black nonprofit or organization and requiring diversity and inclusion training for all staff members on a biannual basis.
My goodness.
Yeah, you know what's crazy about it? They're going to a Cuban immigrants restaurant. I think he's got two restaurants now. It's called like the Ole Restaurant Group. I think it is. One of them is called La Bodeguita de Mima, and there's another one I'm not entirely sure. What do you think they said? Some of these activists said when this Cuban immigrant came out and said, "I will not stand for these mafia tactics."
White supremacists.
They called him a supremacist.
Oh, okay.
They said that he was proving that he believes in his supremacy.
My goodness.
They couldn't call him a white supremacist because he's a Cuban immigrant.
Right.
But they still tried. And they called him racist. And they said he thinks black lives don't matter.
He said that? Or they're putting that in his mouth?
No, he definitely did not say that.
Right.
He said he stands with the community. He stands with all people. And he's got, his family. He's got black family. He's got a gay son. He absolutely believes in, in social justice and civil rights.
Yeah.
But the only thing they can do is, that's the only weapon they have. There's a tweet going around saying that the left is really good at semantics. They change the definition of words and they name themselves things that make it really hard to argue against for dumb people, like Black Lives Matter. If you oppose this group of people threatening small businesses and demanding money, otherwise they have a list of repercussions for non-compliance, then you must not think Black Lives Matter.
Well, Donald Trump Jr. Retweeted your tweet just saying simply, that's extortion. And he was
that
right.
Would be correct.
So that's literally what this is. They're extorting businesses for money.
And you know how much I'd be willing to bet the cops aren't going to do anything about it. As we've seen with the expansion of morality policing, the mayor of Louisville is now saying that he thinks they should declare public racism a public health crisis. Well, if that's true, you can't go around arresting the people who are going to solve that problem now, can you?
Yeah.
And that's the trick. That's the lie. So you got Antifa, but that just means anti-fascist. While they go around giving explosives to people to, start fires, blow things up, and beat people, if you say anything bad about them, you're pro-fascist. So there's a fake tweet going around. They do this all the time. One of the biggest problems we have right now with the left using memes for news is that a good portion of them are just fake.
Yep.
One of them was a group saying, it was the LAPD, I think, a fake tweet saying, "We oppose Antifa and always will. We're exactly the opposite of whatever Antifa is." And so I read that knowing what Antifa is, and I'm like, oh, so they're like libertarian, anarcho-capitalists.
Yeah.
No, but because Antifa thinks, from their perspective, Antifa just means opposed to fascism. That means the LAPD was admitting they were fascists, when in reality the tweet was entirely fake. There's a thread from Zach Goldberg going through a bunch of data points, and one of them is that the left is substantially more likely to have been diagnosed with mental health issues
Wait,
real.
who is that? Zach?
I don't exactly know. Do you know what his title is? He's like a researcher, I think.
Yeah,
right?
he is. He researches, I think, social justice. I'll look him up.
Is he like a government position or?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
General academia.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, what is he, social scientist?
Yeah, hold on, let me check.
Let's get his. Let's. He might just be a random dude on Twitter who's pulling data from other social scientists.
Hold on, I'll read it. Here we go.
I need the receipts.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
It's my
He's a
new-
PhD student / wokeness studies scholar researching the Great Awakening.
Okay.
I don't know what school he's at though. So yeah,
Well,
he's a student.
He's showing data from various charts and he's citing all of them. But I say I'm crediting him for putting a thread together.
Okay.
And one of them shows that the further left you go, the more likely you are to have been diagnosed with a mental illness. And interestingly, the far right is more likely to have been diagnosed with a mental illness than conservatives. So like I think they call it like strong conservative or something.
Okay.
Meaning that there is a point where it's like you go off into the deep end. But one of the things he also pointed out was that the left has a much higher index of depression. And once you go towards the right, depression goes away. Like happiness and general life satisfaction goes way up. Which makes me start to think something about what we see with like what Black Lives Matter is doing, with what Antifa does and how they name their groups and then get away with this stuff. I see from so many people, we mentioned this, that they just screenshot Facebook posts, they'll screenshot tweets, and that's their news. And they'll share these things. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen a bunch of these posts where they're like, if you're upset that someone's getting $600 a week in unemployment, then maybe, these companies should be paying them more. And I'm like, okay, the unemployment was a 100% guarantee plus $600. So no matter how much they were making, they were still getting more money.
Yep.
And so I've gone probably through like 50 posts where I see these pop up and I just like type it really quick. Like here's the thing. But it's all they keep doing to share this information. I think what we're seeing is not that liberals or leftists are more likely to be mentally ill. It's that mentally ill people are more likely to be leftist. Why? Because they believe fake news. They believe these fake memes, these fake tweets, these fake posts. And then you end up with moderates and conservatives and non-mentally ill liberals who all fall under one tent saying like, we oppose this kind of behavior.
Yeah.
But if you get a group that says, their name is Black Lives Matter, and a regular person can understand the distinction between that doesn't literally mean they think that, especially when there have been several people who have lost their lives who have been black during the riots and they said nothing about it. Or that Antifa literally, just because you call yourself the good guys doesn't mean you're the good guys. Whether you're a liberal, a moderate, or conservative, you can understand those concepts. If you're not all with it, you probably can't, and you get your information from memes. And if it's beyond just like a diagnosed mental illness and it's literally somebody who's just like a bunch of low IQ people, then they're not going to be able to sort through the stuff, and they're just going to be forming angry mobs, which is literally what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then when a group goes around threatening businesses, well, no one stops them because the angry mob is loud.
Yeah, and they thrive as victims. The whole victimhood thing is rampant on the far left. They really thrive in being victims together. I mean, everything they're talking about is we're victims. And that's it. Basically, if you look at everything they say, that's the root. They're all victims. They're all being oppressed.
I think a lot of them know that they're lying about being victims.
Okay.
And I think it's like narcissistic personality disorder, borderline, histrionic, all of this like really just aggressive and angry. And so they're going around and threatening people with the weapon they've been handed, victimhood.
Yep.
So they see it. It's like a clear path. Hey, man, I'll go to this business and I'll walk up and I'll say, here's my demands. You're going to pay up or no? And then when they say no, smash some of their property up and say, we'll be back.
Yep.
So these are I read the demands already. I think there's look at this. I'm not going to read this. This is the Nulu business owners representation contract. I'm not going to read it, but I almost have to so people can hear what it is, but I don't want to say these words. I'll read the first part. I, as a business owner in the gentrified Nulu business district, understand that gentrification targets poor and disadvantaged communities of color, and as such, I acknowledge that the original residents, here we go, my business has played a part in this, that the community members were replaced, that many of the original residents were repatriated. I am therefore committing to fix things. And then they say, to correct this lack of representation, I commit to increasing black representation in my business operations. And this shall include, this is where they say, staff and management positions, for black employees, buying from black vendors or giving 1.5% of our monthly annual profits. 23% of black businesses in board membership in the Nulu Business Association. Here's my favorite part. They mention, I can't search through this. One of the things they say is that you have to submit, that we demand you submit to a voluntary audit.
What?
Yes.
Well, that's not voluntary. You're demanding it.
We demand you submit to a voluntary, where is it? Whatever. Here's it's in here somewhere, but this is a photo, so I can't actually do a search for it. But here, check this out. Repercussions of non-compliance. Reduction in racial index score bias report to the Better Business Bureau. I don't think these people realize that that's like telling someone you're going to complain to Google.
I mean, like they want to speak to the manager?
The Better Business Bureau is like, they don't do anything. It's just like it's like Yelp. It's like Yelp before the internet.
Right.
So it's like, I'm going to call the Better Business Bureau, and people are like, I don't care. What are they going to do?
Okay, Karen.
Yeah, exactly. Social media blast. Notification via all social media platforms of non-compliance. Boycott. Public boycott coordinated through social media and mail announcements of your Nulu establishment and any other business ventures owned by you. Protest. Visible media covered demonstration sitting outside your establishment. Invasive reclamation. Placement of booths and tables outside your establishment where competing black proprietors will offer items comparable to those offered by you.
Wow, that sounds an awful lot like extortion, Tim.
It does. The only thing is that the demands are more of an ideological bent. So it's like, what would it be called? I guess it's still extortion. Like, what would it be called if like a bunch of Mormons walked around and they like went to business, but instead of being polite and happy with smiles on their face, they had like bats and they were like, donate to the church or else. That'd still be extortion.
Extortion.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like a Sharia patrol.
Yeah. Morality policing.
Literally, yeah.
So we were talking the other day and I was like, I said the police will come to your house and knock on the door and say you can't play rap music anymore.
Yeah.
It was a bit of an exaggeration, but this is basically it. They're going to, so not necessarily the residential houses yet. They've done that to politicians. We'll see if they start going to regular people, which they probably will, in my opinion, soon. They're going to businesses now and saying, here's what you must do to be in the good graces of the movement. And they want you to admit, this is crazy. I blank see and support the black community as a business owner, dedicate my time. I pledge, therefore, blah, blah, blah. You got to put your name, you got to put your business address and sign an apology acknowledging the faults of your privilege. You have to submit. We demand you submit to a voluntary audit. I wonder if I want to find that. But anyway, this is what they're demanding of people. In which case, what is this? A mafia?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yep,
so
mafia.
So now, here's what I don't think the police will do anything about it. You can have everybody in the world tweet about it, but we've already seen. I do not see the police crossing, these activists or extremists or whatever you want to call it, mafiosos. They're just going to keep doing what they're doing. No one's going to stop them. But there are people who are starting to speak up. So to be fair, this guy in Louisville at this restaurant is, standing up, pushing back and saying no. Yep. Now they have what is this? The level of representation shall be achieved by August 17th, 2020, with incremental increases of 5% in each 6-month period. Well, there you go. This is what we can expect to happen. And now when you look at how the press handles this kind of stuff, this is why I'm not confident that we're going to see de-escalation. I don't know if you saw what happened with the NBA dude. What was his name? Jonathan Isaacs.
Yeah. I saw it. It's terrible the Democrats are and the crazy left are basically being like, good riddance. He got hurt. It's
so
karma.
he's the guy who stood for the national anthem, and even his teammates seem to be supporting him, like let him doing his thing. And then he tore his ACL, which was already weakened. He had a knee brace on, and then he goes for a jump shot, I guess, or something, or a dunk. I don't know. I'm not a basketball kind of guy. But he falls down, and now they're like, irony, they're laughing, haha, he stood for the national anthem, stuff like that. But when it happens, you can see the other people wearing the Black Lives Matter sweaters. They run in and they're like concerned about him. I think that to me was like, a good sign that even these dudes who are, clearly doing two different kind of movements or whatever, still recognize their friends and all that. But based on how we've seen the treatment of Herman Cain when he passed versus John Lewis,
yep.
When you see what happens to this NBA player, The media, like, listen, the Courier-Journal, of course, is talking about the story. There's protests going on. It's local news. Did CNN cover it? New York Times? Washington Post? Vox?
No, they don't want to show people standing up against this.
They don't want to show them extorting people.
Or extorting people, right? Both. You know?
Yep.
You hear what happened in Rockford, Illinois?
No, what happened?
So there was a Back the Blue protest, just a bunch of people. And I guess at the tail end, there was like 4 or 5 anti-Back the Blue, Black Lives Matter, yelling Black Lives Matter at them. And then they got violent. And they sent SWAT in there and took them out.
The far leftists or what?
The far leftists. They arrested each one of them. So
oh, wow.
It's like, so we're, for each of these things, like this that's also not on the news. We're seeing these specific examples of like this. I mean, this isn't even being on the news, but morality policing is, sure, it's happening. But at the same time, I'm seeing plenty of other instances where these cops are like, we're not going to take this. This is ridiculous. We're not the mask police. We're, you get violent in our town, we're going to arrest you and you're going to go to prison. And that's what happened.
Well, let's see if Louisville does it. I mean, the mayor is clearly supporting this weird intersectional identity stuff. But, to be fair, too, I want to make sure we clarify. When they say the media won't cover it, it typically refers to national level media. Like Brian Stelter on CNN goes on his show and he goes, and there it is. More proof of dictator Donald Trump or some other stupid nonsense because Trump tweeted about delaying the election ? And I tweeted, I'm like, Trump tweeted, the governor of New Jersey had small business owners arrested for trying to open their gym in a sleepy suburb.
Right.
So you want to talk to me about who's a dictator, who's a fascist, whatever? It's absolutely insane, man.
And then we got Black Lives Mafia over here.
Black Lives Mafia.
And, Louisville. What? How is this not news? How are people not talking about this?
I've heard stuff like this has happened in other places.
Yeah.
I just couldn't find any confirmation.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Because that's a big issue. Are people actually going to cover this? And the Courier-Journal, I believe, is part of USA Today, but it's not it reaches the national level because I tweet about it. So look, when I posted this story the first time, I didn't think I'd get that many retweets. I got like 20,000.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa. And now all of a sudden we're starting to see it's conservative outlets, conservative commentary starting to cover this, of course. But the mainstream large news outlets have been totally co-opted by the far left. So this is the important thing to realize when people talk about the mainstream media is that there's clearly left-wing media. There's clearly right-wing media. And then there's establishment corporate media that is dominated entirely by far left ideology, or at least bends the knee to it, which is going to make things really, really interesting as we move now into an election. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. If you want to catch the full show, tune in to this channel, subscribe, hit the like button, or check us out on iTunes and Spotify, and we will soon have this podcast up for free on all podcast platforms. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all in the next episode.